Picture a young man standing in the gray, suffocating fog of a northern winter. He looks out at a world shattered by war and declares with absolute intellectual certainty that there is no God, no grand design, and no ultimate purpose to this agonizing existence. Yet, in one of the strangest contradictions, Clive Staples Lewis, known as Jack, was furious at the very creator he insisted wasn't real. He would eventually channel that defiance into a formidable academic career. As a Master of Literature at Oxford University, Lewis used his massive intellect to surgically take apart any argument for faith. But this level of hostility begs a question. Why does a brilliant mind require such heavy, impenetrable armor? Lewis weaponized his atheism, transforming his philosophical stance into a desperate psychological fortress built to keep out further pain. To understand the walls he built, you have to look at his childhood in Belfast. His early years were bathed in the warm light of imagination, filled with books and a deep bond with his brother. That warmth vanished abruptly when he was just 9 years old. His mother was diagnosed with cancer and passed away. He had prayed desperately for a miraculous cure, but the healing never came. In that quiet room, surrounded by grief, a young boy learned his first dark theological lesson. Heaven is completely silent. What followed were miserable years in brutal, austere boarding schools. To survive, Lewis retreated inward, laying the first bricks of his rationalist walls. He developed a simple psychological survival tactic. If you logically expect nothing from the universe, you can never be wounded by its disappointments. Then came the First World War. On his 19th birthday, Lewis found himself standing in the freezing, mud-caked trenches of the Somme. He endured the deafening roar of artillery shells, the acrid smell of gunpowder and blood, and the sudden, violent death of his friends. He even survived his own near-death trauma when an explosive blast wounded and buried him alive. When he finally returned to England, he retreated into the pristine, structured halls of Oxford, seeking a quiet sanctuary for his intellect. The horrors of the battlefield had hardened his childhood defense mechanism into an impenetrable armor. To his analytical mind, the war was absolute proof that the universe was cruel, chaotic, and entirely devoid of divine love. He wore his brilliant mind like a shield, and yet, even behind that thick, heavy academic armor, a quiet, persistent ache began to penetrate his defenses. This was a piercing sensation, an inexplicable joy, and a deep, haunting longing that struck him with sudden intensity. The triggers were entirely unpredictable. It could be reading an ancient Norse myth, watching the golden autumn light filter through the leaves, or even turning the pages of a fantasy novel by George MacDonald. Lewis called this feeling sehnsucht, a deep, unbearable yearning for something that the material world could never satisfy. This emotion terrified his rational mind. It was a direct contradiction to his foundational belief that human existence was completely meaningless. Lewis deduced that biological desires match physical realities. A creature doesn't feel hunger unless food exists, or thirst unless water exists. Expanding this logic creates a spiritual crisis. Why would a material creature possess an unquenchable thirst for a transcendent world unless it exists? Try as he might, Lewis could not analyze this feeling away. He frantically tried to hide behind his lectures and his books to dismiss it, but his purely rational worldview was failing. The thick walls he had built were cracking, and the hounds of heaven were quietly, relentlessly closing in on him. Long before he became the voice of hope for a war-torn Britain or the creator of Narnia, C.S. Lewis lived as one of the most committed atheists in England. Throughout the late 1920s, his worldview was built on strict, unyielding logic. He dismissed religious faith as a form of human wish fulfillment, believing the universe was a cold, accidental machine. But he began noticing a persistent flaw in his own intellectual taste. The authors he admired most, literary giants like Dante, Milton, and G.K. Chesterton, all shared a deep commitment to the very Christianity he despised. His social circle at Oxford only worsened the tension. His brilliant peers, including the linguist J.R.R. Tolkien, and the scholar Hugo Dyson refused to let him dismiss faith as a simple myth, meeting his skepticism with a level of academic rigor that matched his own. Lewis found himself in a position he hadn't prepared for. He was being cornered not by emotion, but by the very logic and literature he had spent his life defending. In the spring of 1929, the pressure reached a breaking point. Alone in his rooms at Magdalen College, Lewis sat looking out over the silent courtyards of Oxford, forced to confront his own conclusions. A mounting weight of historical evidence and philosophical truth was pressing down on his defenses. He realized he could no longer find an intellectually honest way to escape the facts. That night, he gave in. He fell to his knees and prayed, recognizing the existence of God for the first time in his adult life. He described himself as perhaps the most dejected and reluctant convert in all of England. There was no surge of emotional joy, only a quiet intellectual submission to a reality he could no longer deny. This initial, cold recognition of God was the necessary blow to his pride. Before he could explore the specifics of theology, he had to admit that his own intellect was not the highest authority in the universe. By September 1931, the debate moved to a tree-lined path behind the college, known as Addison's Walk. During a walk that lasted until 3 in the morning, Tolkien challenged Lewis's deepest assumptions about stories. Tolkien argued that human myths are not mere lies. He saw them as shattered, imperfect reflections of a single, ultimate truth. He framed the story of Jesus as the true myth, the one narrative that had actually crossed the threshold of history to become a tangible, documented fact. The transition reached its quiet conclusion a few weeks later during a morning motorcycle ride to the Whipsnade Zoo. When Lewis climbed into the sidecar, he remained a skeptic. By the time he reached the zoo, he believed that Jesus was the Son of God. There were no dramatics or flashes of light. His transformation mirrored the quiet opening of a flower in the morning sun, proving that the mind must sometimes lead the heart to the truth. Because Lewis spent years navigating his own doubt, he possessed a rare clarity when addressing modern skeptics. He relied on rigorous logic and an unforgettable imagination to reach audiences where simple sentimentality often fails. This clarity became a lifeline for Britain during the height of the Blitz, as the nation faced the constant threat of destruction. His BBC radio broadcasts, which later formed the book Mere Christianity, offered a cohesive moral framework to a public searching for meaning. He translated these deep truths into fiction, carrying millions of readers through a wardrobe into Narnia to teach them that even in the longest winter, Aslan is on the move. Lewis showed the world that faith does not require you to abandon your intellect. As he famously put it, "I believe in Christianity as I believe that the sun has risen, not only because I see it, but because by it I see everything else." If you found this journey from doubt to clarity inspiring, subscribe and share this video with someone searching for answers. Leave a comment with your favorite C.S. Lewis thought. Join us next time to explore the spiritual journey of the man who helped Lewis to the truth, J.R.R. Tolkien. Until then, keep seeking.